Here lies a book that has outlived empires and humiliated geniuses. A book that looks like knowledge, yet speaks in no human tongue. And I swear this by history's own receipts. The pages are real. The ink is real. The drawings are real. Yet the meaning slips away like smoke. Stay till the end. For the final twist is not what the book says, but what it does to every mind that tries to read it. Tonight, we walk into the most infamous silent room in history, the Voynich Manuscript. We will not drown in conspiracy. We will use facts as our compass, dates, provenance, forensic analysis, and we will treat every theory like a suspect under lamplight. And when we finish, you will understand why this is not merely a puzzle, but a mirror held up to civilization itself. A solved mystery ends with a period, but an unsolved mystery ends with a hook. A crooked finger pulling the mind back again and again. The Voynich Manuscript is that hook, perfected. For more than a century, it has lured in scholars and amateurs, code breakers and poets, skeptics and dreamers, all convinced they might be the one to open the lock. And yet, the lock has no visible keyhole. Now, let us begin where all great tragedies begin, with a door opening in secret. Picture it: Italy, early 20th century. A villa near Rome. A chest of old manuscripts offered quietly for sale. And inside that chest, a ghost of the 1400s. A rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich acquired the manuscript in 1912 from a Jesuit collection near Rome. It looked medieval. It felt medieval. But it read like nothing on earth. And Voynich, bold, theatrical, a salesman with a scholar's obsession, took pages on tour, claiming the manuscript would startle the scientific world. He believed he held a lost masterpiece, but he also held something more dangerous, a mystery with enough texture to feel solvable. Because if a puzzle looks impossible, men walk away. But if it looks almost readable, they sacrifice years. Forensic analysis gives us the body of the beast. A 2009 materials report describes the manuscript as a codex roughly 23.5 centimeters high by 16.2 centimeters wide, bound in vellum pages, approximately 240 pages long, with writing that appears to have been made with a quill pen. The ink itself? Brownish black, consistent with historic formulations. And in that same analysis, the writing and paints behave like real materials, not modern tricks. This matters because it kills the laziest accusation. It's obviously fake. No, if it is a hoax, it is an expensive one, built with authentic craftsmanship. And now we ask the question that finally pins the era to the wall. When was it made? Theories are loud, but carbon is quiet, and carbon does not care what you believe. In 2009, researchers at the University of Arizona radiocarbon dated samples from the manuscript's parchment. Result: the pages date to 1404 to 1438, the early Renaissance. That single date range is a guillotine blade. It cuts down dozens of fantasies. It pushes the book centuries earlier than many popular claims. It turns the Voynich manuscript from oddity into artifact. And yet, here comes the next betrayal. Dating the parchment dates the skin. Not necessarily the moment the words were written, but the evidence leans hard. The inks and colors show nothing suspicious for the period. So we are left with a conclusion that is both solid and cruel. A real medieval book, written in a script that refuses to become language. Now, let us open it. Most books guide you. This one ambushes you. So scholars named its sections not by reading, but by looking. And what they saw was unsettling. According to Yale's Voynich Library description, the contents fall into 6 sections, inferred from illustrations. botanical pages, drawings of plant-like forms, with text paragraphs beside them, including 113 unidentified plant species in this classification. Astronomical or astrological diagrams, radiating circles, suns, moons, zodiac symbols, and courtly figures. A biological section, miniature nude female figures wading in fluid, connected by pipes and capsules, strange, almost anatomical choreography. Cosmological foldouts, medallions spanning multiple pages, like maps of a world that may or may not exist. Pharmaceutical drawings, herbs and roots beside jars, as if a medieval apothecary wrote in code. Finally, pages of continuous text, entries marked with star-like symbols, often called recipes, though no one can confirm what they are. So here is the tension. The book looks structured like a knowledge manual. Herbs, heavens, bodies, medicines, instructions. But the words remain unclaimed by any known language. And this is where the internet usually turns stupid. Aliens. Atlantis. Secret cult. But history offers something more frightening than aliens. Human intention. Because if a human wrote this, then a human meant it. So, who tried to read it first? Long before YouTube. Long before computers. Long before viral mysteries. A man in Prague called it a sphinx, and begged for an Oedipus. By the 17th century, the manuscript was already baffling owners. A Prague alchemist, Georg Besch, described it as a riddle taking up space in his library, and contacted the Jesuit scholar Athanasius Kircher, hoping he could solve it. That's not modern obsession. That's historical obsession, recorded. And from that era comes another haunting detail. A letter tucked into the manuscript, a whisper of provenance, claiming rumors about famous owners and authors, claims debated to this day. Important, this does not prove who wrote it. It proves something else. The manuscript was already ancient enough to acquire myth. Now the story escalates, because once cryptographers hear unreadable, they smell blood and water. Enter the code breakers. If any minds on Earth were trained to tear secrets open, it was the wartime cryptanalysts. And they came for Voynich like wolves. In the 1940s and beyond, legendary codebreakers William and Elizabeth Friedman, not hobbyists, but professionals who helped crack serious wartime systems, studied the Voynich Manuscript for decades. History.com notes they were convinced it was an invented language, not a simple cipher. Think about what that means. Not we didn't have time. Not we lacked tools. But the structure itself resists translation. And the more modern analysts pushed statistical methods, the more the text behaved like language in certain ways. Clusters, patterns, section-specific vocabulary, while still refusing to map cleanly to any known tongue. This is where the story becomes Shakespearean in the deepest sense. A tragedy of intelligence. The smarter the mind, the sharper the torment. Because the manuscript whispers, "You're close." Then moves the goalpost one step further into fog. So the question hardens. Is the manuscript meaningful? Or is it a masterpiece of meaningless? In our age, we do what every age does. We bring our strongest tool and swear it will end the mystery. We brought AI, and the manuscript still did not blink. Here comes the newest and most dangerous idea. A January 2026 report summarized a study in Cryptologia describing an invented cipher method nicknamed Naibbe, built to be hand-doable with medieval randomness using dice and playing cards, that produces text with statistical behavior eerily similar to Voynich. Important, it does not decode the manuscript. It does something more subtle and more terrifying. It shows a plausible way the manuscript's text could be generated to look language-like, without necessarily being a readable language at all. The study describes breaking Latin or Italian into single and double letters, then using card-driven lookup tables to transform them into glyphs, weighted so the output matches Voynich patterns, word lengths, glyph frequencies, and grammar-like rules. And expert commentary in that same report stresses the key point. This doesn't prove the Voynich method. It proves that methods exist. Now listen carefully, because this is the twist that makes viewers sit up. If the manuscript was made with a method like this, then the text may not be a language waiting to be translated. It may be a performance of secrecy, a book designed to look like hidden knowledge, because hidden knowledge sells. That idea aligns with a sober observation noted in modern overviews. Mystery itself can be marketable, then and now. And that brings us to the final scene. Now, the promised ending. The one I asked you to wait for. The greatest story ever told in history is not only what the Voynich Manuscript is, it is what it creates. It creates communities of hunters. It creates careers. It creates theories like nations create flags. It makes humans argue, build, test, repeat, generation after generation. Because we cannot accept a locked door. And if the manuscript is meaningful, then it is a lost voice from 1404 to 1438, still waiting to be heard. But if it is a hoax, then it is a genius hoax, because it made the world pay attention for 600 years. Either way, it wins, because the Voynich Manuscript is not merely a book. It is a machine that converts curiosity into obsession. And that is why you watched until the end. Now tell me, what do you believe? A. Lost language. B. Cipher system. C. Medieval performance a hoax. D. Something stranger. Drop your letter and your theory in the comments. And next episode, same style, deeper dive, choose one. Dyatlov Pass, why the tent was cut from the inside. Cleopatra's tomb, the grave that should exist. The Antikythera mechanism, the ancient machine that changed time. Subscribe, for history is full of locked doors, and I intend to turn every handle.